Welkom bij de Leiderschapspodcast van City Life Church. Dit is Leadership Talks.
Hello again at Leadership Talks. Good to see you. As you know, we always do this every fourth Tuesday of the month. I have a special guest that I'm going to have a little conversation with. And this time, I want you to meet Pastor Greg Johnson. Pastor Greg, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, it's great to be
here. And maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit. Before we do, I always start with one question. Always. This is more than 20 times we've done this. This is the question. Your response to this one. Leadership is the problem, and leadership is the answer. Can you give your first response to that one before we start our conversation?
Yeah. Well, I think that leadership is really about building people. And when we get so involved in just trying to be a leader instead of trying to build people, I think that's where we miss it.
Yeah.
And so everything I try to do in building myself as a leader is all about helping build people. Because when you build people, God will build you. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Pastor Greg, you're an associate pastor of the, may I say, famous church, Joel Osteen, Lakewood, Houston, Texas. So you're in his team, one of the associate pastors.
Yeah.
Now, most of us only know, from the television, Joel Osteen. But this is our chance to get to know Lakewood a bit better for who you really are as a church. You've told me a few things were quite impressive, actually. This is a very open question, but what is typically a Lakewood Church? How would you describe your church, your culture?
Yeah. Well, you've got to realize Lakewood Church has been built off of a culture that started in 1959. So close to 63 years. And really, Lakewood Church was built on loving people and bringing hope to the world. And I think that's been the destiny. But if you look at the Osteen family, many people just see Joel on TV. They don't see really, what's behind the scenes. I always say what's done in secret, God will reward openly, as the Bible says. And they don't see the type of people they are, the type of leaders that they are, the foundation of Lakewood. And when I think about, most people wouldn't think about this, but when we had our son Connor, and I went to Pastor Joel and I said, listen, we need to start a special needs ministry, and to reach these families that are out there. I remember his response. He said, this is the very heart of God. He said, let's do that.
Yeah.
And you think that would come from a pastor right away, but when you're delving into an area that the church hasn't really worked with before, that's not an easy answer. So that really comes out of his heart. And there are many ministries at Lakewood Church, from the Freedom Ministry that helps people with addictions, helps them come through problems, to our hospital ministry. Where this next year, we'll do 50,000 hospital visits.
50,000.
Yeah, with all the hospitals, because Houston's a big hospital community, and so we work with other churches. It's not just Lakewood, but we kind of organize that.
Wow.
To people that are going through. We have Grief Share and so many different ministries that people would not know about with Lakewood.
We only see Pastor Joel
preaching.
preaching.
Yeah, but it's the foundation of it, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. How many people would wonder, how big is your church now, the Lakewood Church? How?
Well, the pandemic, hit, we were around, about 40,000, on weekly services.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic hit, we still haven't gotten back half of our crowd. So, but what's changed, and this is what I'm saying, when God's always over here, he's always doing a new thing, and we've got our box, and we're thinking, man, if we don't have a full crowd or 3/4 of the crowd, we're missing something. But our online numbers went through the roof. And so we gained probably 2.5 million people online. And so
2.5 million people watching
yeah,
online.
yeah. So with that, we just realized God's doing new things. So we adjusted even how we did services and different things like that to reach the audience both here and online.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. You briefly mentioned it, but you oversee a lot of ministries in church, but also you started a very special ministry. Maybe you want to share just a few minutes about that one.
Yeah. You know, when we got to Lakewood Church, we've been there about 6 months, and then everything kind of changed for us.
Yeah.
And our son, who we would,
Is it working, or should we use another microphone? Yeah.
Okay. Our son, when he was born, he was really like our other two kids, but when he was about 2 years of age, and we were at Lakewood Church about 6 months, everything shifted in a couple weeks' time. And you know, where he was playing with other friends, now he played by himself. Where he'd give us a hug and a kiss, now he stopped showing emotion. And where he would say, "I love you, Mommy and Daddy," he stopped speaking altogether. And to make a long story short, you know, we went through so much over the next 3 years.
He didn't speak at all anymore.
He didn't speak at all, yeah. And I shared with the team a little bit ago that I was driving to work one day, and I just asked God why. And it was an intimate conversation like God was saying right here. And he just said, "Craig, your child is not a burden. Your child's a gift." And I said, "God, I know what you mean. We love our child." And he said it again, "Craig, your child's not a burden. Your child's a gift." And he said, "You're looking at everything that's wrong with them. You're not looking at what's right." And I said, "God, what do you mean?" He said, "I'm going to use your son to reach millions of people." And I remember, you know, here's the bottle of water. I remember picking up a bottle of water, and I said, "God, my son can't even, he can't even speak. How is he going to reach millions of people?" Yeah. And then God just told me to trust him, you know. And for the next 3 months, that's what we did, because he had so many challenges. But then my wife came calling from upstairs, and she said, "Craig, get up here." And I ran upstairs, and she was putting Carn to bed, and she said, "Carn began to speak." And he began to speak. After
years?
Yeah, after years.
He
3
began
years.
to speak.
And I said, "What do you mean he began to speak?" Because I hadn't heard him speak for 3 years. And she said he spoke, and she took me to his bed, and I said, "What did he say?" And she leaned over, and she said, "Connor, say it for Mommy and Daddy." And my little 5-year-old boy looked up and said his first words, and he said, "This is my Bible. I am what it says I am. I have what it says I have. I can do what it says I can do. Today I'll be taught the Word of God. I boldly confess. My mind is alert. My heart is receptive. I'll never be the same." He did our whole spiritual declaration that we do before the messages. And Pastor Joel spoke about it a couple weeks later, and millions of people heard his testimony. And that was kind of the beginning of God using our son. And so now we've launched what are called Champions Clubs. Yeah. And they're for special needs families, and they're able to come to church for the first time, volunteer for the first time, be a part of community. And now there's around 115 Champions Clubs in 20 countries. Wow. And CLC started the first one right here
in The Hague.
Yeah.
So, well, we started small, but it's a start.
Yeah.
It's great. You mentioned a few. This is beautiful that you do this. I'm still thinking about the 50,000 visits to the hospital. Many people only know, to be honest, they see the smiling Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Everything is perfect, and everything, God is good, and He will use everything for the good. But then you give us a bit more of insight of the servanthood of the people of Lakewood and how they reach out to the community. You told me a little bit about it also during the pandemic. Can you?
Yeah.
Only the fact of 50,000 hospital visits. You mean like volunteer people that go?
Yeah, volunteer people. So we work with other churches.
Yeah.
And we've organized other churches to work together on visiting people in the hospital.
Yeah.
And so so through these other churches, along with Lakewood, they'll make 50,000 visits this next year, and we've never done that before.
Wow.
The last time it's been around 10,000, but more churches are able to reach more hospitals, and it's really the community coming together. But this is the very, very heart of God. Joel, the best way I can explain Pastor Joel is he's very childlike. You see the smile on his face. Look at a 3-year-old picture and you'll see the same smile. He's been smiling like that since he was 3 years old. But Joel's one of the kindest people I've ever met. And so you're not getting a TV personality, you're getting Joel. When he says he believes in you, he backs it up. I've never seen somebody go the extra mile with people. They'll always tell me, I would come to them, I'd say, maybe a staff member, we had worked with them and maybe they were struggling. We weren't sure if they were going to make it, right? And Joel would always say to me, Craig, have you done everything you can? In other words, it wasn't a staff member's responsibility, it was my responsibility to make sure that staff member was successful. Have you done everything you can to help them be successful? And then I have to reevaluate myself as a leader. Have I done everything? Not have they done everything? And so he just believes in people. And when you won't ever see this, because they edit it out. But I would say every other week you'll see Joel break down in the pulpit and begin to weep. And he's usually, when he cries, he hates to cry. But his heart is so tender because when he starts talking about people that are going through things, when he starts talking about God, give them the same favor you've given us. When he tells a story of somebody, that had struggled for so long and now they're breaking addictions and breaking things in their life. It's overwhelming to him. And if you came to Lakewood, you would see him in the middle of the message begin to cry. It's not an act. It's honestly not something he wants to do. But his heart is so tender. And I realize with him, he carries the burden of people. And God's called him to cast a wide net. So we all have our callings in what God's called us to do, but he's called him to cast a wide net. So you see that same heart filter in to every person. And you realize that, if you're not a person of hope, if you don't love people, you probably won't make it on Lakewood staff, because it'll be really apparent right away, because that's what flows down from the head.
Yeah. You mentioned one of these things of culture in your church. Can you mention a few more important aspects of the culture that Lakewood has?
Yeah, Lakewood.
In the leadership and down in the...
Yeah. I think, Lakewood's been called, with his parents, an oasis of love. And the reason why they showed that is because his parents did some innovative things in the church that had never been done before. For instance, as Anglo pastors, they didn't build their church in a nice white community. They went into a multi-ethnic community. And they built their church because they wanted to be one of the first churches to reach every type of person, every ethnicity.
That was his father and mother.
That was his father and mother. And so Lakewood became probably one of the first multi-ethnic churches. If you come to Lakewood, it looks a little like heaven, because that's what heaven's going to look like. Another thing that, with the culture, that, they value both the husband and wife, even as pastors. I watched Pastor John and Dodie. She co-led with him. And that was one of the first in American churches where they were co-pastors and they led out that way. And then I watch how you and Matilda do that and so many others now. But they were one of the first ones to do that because they felt like, man, we've got Rachel's in here. We've got different ones. These ladies, these men, they've all got a calling. And so it was different things like that. But I think, if I looked at everything with with what Lakewood does, you're not going to hear a lot of the things of how much they help people and how much they do for people, because they don't talk about it. And I'll give you an example.
Now it's your chance to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, okay? People ask me, what's Joel and Pastor Victoria like? I can speak from personally, okay? When we found out about Connor, and then he had his miracle, we had him in a public school, and Joel would not want me to tell this, but I think he'll give me a pass. But Connor was digressing in the public school system. Not because you don't have good teachers, there's just too many kids now. And so it's very difficult for our teachers to work with so many kids when some of them need one-on-one. I went to my wife, and there was this school, but it costs a lot of money. But we knew it could help Connor, and it was a specialized school. And it cost so much money that we would have to sell our house and move down to one car, and we knew our other kids wouldn't be able to get drama lessons or different things like that. And I remember not telling anybody. I told Dr. Paul that we wanted to put Connor, Dr. Paul Osteen, Joel's brother, we wanted to put Connor in a school, so we were going to sell our house. And I'd hear my wife in the other room. You know how you have monitors in between the rooms with your kids? And she'd be praying with Connor, and she'd say, "Oh, God, please don't make us sell our house. Please let us find a way to help Connor." And I'm in the other room feeling like less than a provider, as a husband. But we knew together was the right thing, Pastor Errol. It was the right thing because it would help. But it was going to be a huge sacrifice. And I'll never forget this. The day that I was going to call the real estate agent, I get a call from Joel out of the blue. "Hey, Craig, how you doing?" I said, I'm doing good. How's the family? Good. How's Connor? He's doing good. He said, "Hey, Craig, we never want you to have to worry about Connor's school bills or medical bills ever again." He says, "We're going to take care of it all."
Oh, wow. Wow.
Outside of my salvation. And my family, it's the greatest gift that I've ever been given. Now, that's not the miracle. Joel has done this now for 12 years. He's never mentioned it one time to me. He's never reminded me of what he's done. And I even sent him a text when Connor was 18. I said, "Pastor Joel, I just want you to know, you blessed us so much. You don't have to do that. The church needs that money." Because it was a lot. If the church needs that money, I want you to be released from that. And Joel sends me back a text. He says, "Craig, you've blessed us far more than we've ever blessed you."
Wow.
He said, "I'm honored to do that." That's Joel Osteen. You'll never hear about it. And I'm just one of the many staff members, families, single moms. One of the best parts of my job is this. Anytime a need comes in, I'm kind of the one who hears the need. Our staff will bring it to me, and I'll be able to go to our business administrator or something like that and meet a single mom that can't pay her rent, a special needs, family that's struggling. And I've never had Joel turn that away. I've never one time turned that away. And we might help them, get in a better financial position or different things like that. But that's the Osteens.
Wow.
And so I really believe this. What's done in secret, when you help people, when you build people, God will build you.
Yeah.
And that's a secret behind Lakewood Church. Really, it's Joel and they're very, what they do up front. They're great and talented and all those things, but it's really what's behind the scenes that's made Lakewood Church.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We are at the leadership conference now while we are talking. You said if you want your church to grow, look for a few needs in the city, right? Can you share a bit on that one? That's a key. You do it as a church.
Yeah.
You do it personally.
Yeah.
You're traveling around the world to build champions clubs, to help churches, provide for a good place for special need families. So that's your heart. But this idea about helping, you want your church to grow, find a need in your city.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit?
Yeah, well, there's tremendous needs, and they're all different in different cities. Some might cross over, but I think that's been a shift for us, even at Lakewood Church, where we've always tried to meet needs. But the pandemic really helped show us that we need to take greater steps than ever before, because the needs are greater than ever before.
Yeah.
And so in our city, we would have so many hurricanes and floods and different things like that. And Lakewood, because it has so many volunteers, it's able to really help the city reach out to those needs. So I was talking to our pastor and talking to one of our key leaders. I said, we need to really figure out how we can begin to, as a church, meet them in a greater way. And so we even changed one of our departments, really shifted, and it's called Relief and Recovery at Lakewood. And we put together a team, and they train volunteers, and now we have warehouses where we provide food to families, and kind of like your food bank, but we work with World Vision and work with Amazon and work with different people. We work with refugees now that come into our city, and we help. Matter of fact, that's what my wife does. She works with refugees, and they know nothing, and they come over, and she helps them get in school and take them to the doctor and helps them get acclimated. And we really set up this relief and recovery to meet the needs of our community. Well, what it's done, it's been pretty incredible, because now I think I think it's been about 25,000 people or something like that over the last 6 months that we've either helped in some way, shape, or form.
That's amazing.
Through relief and recovery.
Really?
And those are big numbers, but man, if you help 100 people, come on. I mean, you're making a difference. And so we've really restructured our church in the way we're viewing things, the way we're looking on having help needs. And that was a shift for Joel. That was a shift for all of us. But you've got to follow what God's doing.
Yeah.
You've got to see, hey, we may never be the same as a church after the pandemic. So don't keep doing the same things that you're doing just because you've always done them. But really follow what God's doing. Yeah. And when you reach those needs, what we've seen happen is so many testimonies, so many lives are changed, so many people that are touched. Now they're coming to Lakewood Church. And so that's why I can testify about it. We're not that smart, Pastor Errol. I mean, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, right? I mean, I'm doing my best. But what I do try to do, and what Pastor Jeffrey and I are talking about, I don't have to be smart. If I go after God, He's the smart one, right? He's the genius, right? So He could take average people like me and make me a genius in situations, right? And that's the power of going after God. And so He's just showing us different ways, even with special needs. Nobody was helping special needs family, very few churches. And when God showed us that, and Pastor Joel goes, this is the very heart of God, let's do this. Little do I know that even when I got the diagnosis of my son, little do I know that even on my worst day, I might become someone else's best hope.
Yeah.
And now you got a little boy that's coming to your Champions Club here, and he just learned how to do some different things he's never done, and his parents are able to come to church here now, and you've got a couple other families that are able to come to church for the first time. And I'll say this. I know I'm talking way too much, but I'll say this.
No, that's okay.
I'll say this, Pastor Earl.
You fill this program. Very good. Yeah.
I'll say this. when I got that gift from Pastor, you know, and again, that was a big gift. You know, God could use you in any way, you know, small, an encouragement, in any different way. But I told God, I said, God, most families would never give that gift, never get that gift. And these families are struggling all over the world. I said, God, I'll commit to finding a way for these families. I'll commit to serving them the rest of my life with my wife and our team. Because you've blessed us so much, God, let us bless others. Because isn't that what generosity is? When God blesses you, you know, when he prospers you, it's not about for you to keep. It's for, when you're blessed, it's for you to be a blessing to other people. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So that's what we've tried to do, you know, is just try to be a blessing to other people as best we can.
Thank you. Well, we do agree that pandemic has brought needs to the surface, needs of people, and that the church is called to step into those needs, and it's a bit different. It's a different season for the church. Yeah, and you're a great example in that. A few minutes left. You've written a few books.
Yeah.
This one they're all very good, but Lead Vertically was very, very inspiring to me. Just a few minutes on the message of this book. It's a great book, Leading Vertically.
Yeah, you know, I learned something early on, you know, and it actually took me a period of time. You know, when I talk about strategies and all the, listen, one of my top 5 strengths is strategy. So I want to lean towards strategy, right? But I found this in my experience at Lakewood, is that when you'll wait on God ideas, when you'll be about building people and not ministries necessarily, or building buildings or different things like that, I found out that God will build you. In other words, I remember when we first got to Lakewood, and we needed all these volunteers and all the church, all the ministries. You know, we all compete for resources, right? and volunteers and stuff like that. And God just stopped me one day because we were striving so much. And God said, Craig, he said, I want your department to begin to serve all the other departments. So in other words, instead of us, you know, trying to get volunteers for our own, we started serving the other departments. So when the music department was doing a recruitment for musicians, we were there at the registration table. When the youth were doing something, we were there working with the youth team. And so we started serving the other departments of Lakewood Church in that first year that I was there. And it was a mind shift.
Yeah.
And you're like saying, well, Craig, weren't you working on your department? What was amazing is when we started serving these other departments at Lakewood, God started building our department.
Wow.
And that was one of the ways that we grew. I was overseeing family ministry at that time. And that's how we went. One of the ways we went from 330 to 1,000 volunteers is because when we started building other people, God started building our ministry.
Wow.
And that ministry really, we developed a lot of the book. It became really the lead ministry in our church and how we develop leaders. And so, listen, we only have one thing we can take with us to heaven, and that's our relationships. Our relationship with Jesus, our relationship with each other. And many times we're spending so much energy on things we can never take to heaven.
That's true.
And God's saying, wait a second. You know, it's the people that I want you to build. It's the lives I want you to impact. And if you'll build people, don't worry about your ministry. I'll build the ministry.
Fantastic. That's true. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for being with us here. You're here with your wife, Samantha. And thank you for sharing what you've been sharing. A bit of behind the scenes of Lakewood. I think next time we will watch Joel, then the picture is a bit different. We even love him more and appreciate him and you. Thank you for visiting us here in the Netherlands for the second time now.
Yes.
So your book is really is a great book. I think actually I bought a few years ago for all the pastors that we have, and we talked about this book together. It's really inspiring. You're a very inspiring leader. Thank you for sharing and being with us. Okay, the time is up. Thank you for watching or listening. As I said when we started, this is Leadership Talks. We will be with you in a month. Every fourth Tuesday of the month, you can enjoy the interview that I have with one of my guests. This time was Pastor Greg Johnson from Lakewood Church. Next time will be Pastor Jeffrey Rahmat from a very big church in Jakarta. See you next month again.